Welcome to the Florida Folk Show podcast. We're going to talk a little bit about news today. I think some of the bills that have good and bad that we see have been tossed around the Florida Legislature, 260 of which passed this past session. I know there's another session coming up about gaming. We're not going to talk about that. We've got 11 bills have been signed, correct?
That is correct, yes.
By the governor.
Yeah.
And 10 are sitting on his desk.
No, there were 10 sitting on his desk as of last night that he had signed, and then he signed the 11th one this morning. The one that he signed today was the election law.
Right. Well, a lot of these have to do with the environment. I guess one that stands out right away is the strange sugar Department of Agriculture sugar bill, which is what was the number of that one?
So that was the right to farm bill. I do not have the name of it in front of me right now. But yeah, that bill passed the House with 110-7 and the Senate 38-1. And then DeSantis signed that on the 28th, I believe. Yeah. No, on the 29th, he signed that into law. So what this one does, which is interesting, it's supposed to protect farmers against frivolous nuisance lawsuits that threaten their livelihoods.
Well, this is a theory that goes way back, right?
Yeah, so there already is a right to farm bill that passed the legislature years back. So this bill was allegedly just making technical changes to the right to farm bill. It was Senate President Wilton Simpson. He's a egg farmer. It was his big priority this session to get this passed. So some of the technical changes made is it adds the word particle emissions to the list of things no one can sue about. So that would be the soot from the sugarcane fields.
Yeah, another word
burning.
for soot.
Yeah. And then another limits the radius for claims to just only a half a mile. So if you happen to have some damage done more than half a mile away because of the sugarcane, you can't do anything about it.
This is the burning of the cane.
Yeah. Or any adverse effect from agriculture, like runoff from pesticide or whatever, that if it damages your property more than half a mile, you can only sue for within that half mile area.
I wonder how many people have ever taken a plane trip or a helicopter over what they call Big Sugar.
Yeah.
You can be up there thousands and thousands of feet in the air and you still can't see the edges of it. It is an enormous, gigantic farm that takes up all of south central Florida. It's beyond belief.
Yeah, from October to May, they burned 400,000 acres of sugarcane fields.
Oh, it's terrible. I've driven through it many times when I worked for the Seminoles. I used to drive back and forth. Mm-hmm. You can't get away from it. You never know what day they're going to be burning where, but it hangs in the air. Every once in a while, it wafts over some of those little towns like Belglade and Clewiston and places like that, and you've got your air conditioning on, you've got your wipers on, you're going through a black cloud, and you're seeing people walking up and down the streets just like it's a normal thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been going on for so long, it's just a part of their lives now. But if the winds shift and it happens to go to one of the white wealthy neighborhoods, then all of a sudden Florida Forest Services ordinances kick in, and they have to stop the burning, and instead if they want to keep at it, they have to go to the mechanical. See, that's the whole thing. There is the burning of sugarcane is not necessary. It's just faster and cheaper for them to do it.
There are other ways.
You can mechanically remove all of that.
And those go into those are clicked into operation when the wind shifts, because the eastern edge of the Everglades, the river of grass, the eastern edge of it is Palm Beach County, and one of the wealthier counties in the state. But you have to go all the way in toward the beach before you get into the wealthy areas. And that soot goes all the way in there. It goes out to the Atlantic Ocean. It goes down to Fort Lauderdale, out in Weston, which is valuable property on the edge of the Everglades. And it's when you think about the years and years and years of people that have ingested that stuff, and it can't be good. And now they're coming up and putting a half-mile radius on who can raise any hell about it and complain about it. And I don't see it, and there's no need for it. Smart agriculture will not produce those problems that hurt people and hurt communities. And that's why I keep saying, as we go into the next generation of green, looking out, what's smart and what's dumb. And there's a lot of dumb things going on in Florida right now, being protected by these old big sugars and big agriculture people who just hesitant to take the next step. And I was talking to Tim earlier about when I first moved to St. Pete in the early 70s, just went down to when the brand new light bulbs came out, the LED light bulbs, and that lasted longer, and they had a different curly cute shape to them and everything. And I had some guy attack me. What are you doing, man? Why are you looking at those bulbs? Some old codger, And I finally had to get the manager, and they had to walk me out to my car. This guy was angry because I was just considering it, even though he could buy 3 of those bulbs for what he's paying for his one. It didn't matter to him. It was changing the old guard, and that's I'm sorry, but the world has caught up to the old guard, and you have to get smart. All right, I'm sorry.
But no, I mean, there is a way for farming and ranching to work in conjunction with preserving the environment. Like you look at, I can't remember the specifics of it, but no, there was recently a huge conservation easement agreement for tens of thousands of acres of agricultural land where they're going to work in conjunction with environmental groups to preserve it and allow wildlife to thrive while they can still do their agricultural business.
If the Florida Panthers bothering your cats, your calves, then build a bigger fence. They can't jump over 11-foot, 12-foot fence. Build a bigger fence. Why not? Instead, you're advocating for permits for incidental take, where a farmer can go out and just kill a panther if it's roaming through his land. That's antiquated, stupid thinking.
Mm-hmm. No, there are solutions. But yeah, so other than big sugar, we also have huge energy lobbies here in Florida. So there's 3 separate preemption bills.
Preemption bills. What does that mean?
All right, so there's in the United States, we have the federal government, we have state governments, and then we have county and local municipality governments. So the U.S. Constitution gives certain powers to the federal government, and all other powers are reserved to the states. In Florida's state constitution, it claims certain powers for the states, and then the rest, we have this concept of home rule here, where it's up to the local communities to decide how they're governed, what rules they make. Anything that's not already the domain of the state or federal government, the local governments can do what they will. Well, in recent years, there's been this growing trend within the Republican-controlled Florida Legislature where on issues that they haven't acted and local governments have, in ways that maybe aren't best for their business interests or the people lobbying them, they preempt these local rules. They say that local governments can't make rules on these things, even though the state government isn't actually doing anything to address these issues.
For example?
So we have Senate Bill 1128, which was pushed by the natural gas industry, would prevent local governments from banning natural gas as an energy source in new construction, and would also restrict the ability of local governments to decrease the use of natural gas obtained by fracking. So there's a big push all over the country for new construction to not include natural gas in it as we shift towards more solar and wind and cleaner forms of energy.
And new forms of construction that are cheaper. In other words, we're being made to take the old expensive fracking that's expensive not only what it produces, but how it is obtained
and the harm it does to our waters,
and then the harm to the community and everything else.
Absolutely.
That is just totally ridiculous, and I can't understand that. But there's more. There's a solar, the energy pre-exemption also.
Yeah, so there's two somewhat related to that. So the one is more about electric vehicle charging stations. So Senate Bill 856 would prohibit local governments from imposing restrictions related to gas stations, including electric vehicle charging stations. So there's some like local governments that have been talking about maybe like requiring, like mandating that gas stations convert or at least accommodate electrical vehicle charging stations. And so before anyone could even act on those ideas, the state was like, no, y'all can't do that.
What about those, how many communities that have already taken the goal to be carbonless by the year 2034 or 2050? It's changed. But,
yeah, so...
now they can't continue on their path?
No, so in these bills, they would also preempt the ability of local governments from passing clean energy resolutions. And not only would that be going forward, but it would be retroactive. So any clean energy ordinances that have been passed or resolutions would be null and void if DeSantis signs this. And then the third in this series, Senate Bill 896, prevents local governments from deciding whether or not solar facilities should be granted permits as agricultural land, and also redefines pulling methane gas from a landfill as a renewable energy. So, as I understand it currently, like if you want to build a massive solar farm, you have to get the land zoned for industrial use. But this would allow them to build solar farms on any land deemed agricultural. Obviously, I'm all for solar energy. The more we can have, better. We're the Sunshine State. We should have like the greatest solar energy infrastructure. But again, when you take away local control and local decision making from how to do these things, like very often Tallahassee is much deeper in the pockets of these business interests, and so it may not always be in the community's best interest to have these solar plants where they want to throw them.
You know what this reminds me of is when you were a kid, you got the Superman comic books, but there was always a character called Bizarro.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he lived in an alternate universe to Superman. It looked just alike, except it was dirty and messy, and the laws were crappy, and everything else, and everything went wrong, and there was murder and wars and everything else, and in Superman's world, you know, everything was clean and made sense. And what they're doing here is trying to force us back into that bizarro world. Hey, it was a great world. I was born in that previous world. But that world's not there anymore. Okay, and to go back to try to get these communities that are trying to be to take up the mantra of being green, being smart, and they try to dumb them down and bring them back into bizarro world. It's not going to work, and it's going to cause a lot of dissension and destruction. And Florida would be smart to lead the pack and be a smart state. There's no reason we can't do it. Yeah. There's no reason we can't do it. There's no reason you can't put up that 10-foot fence and keep out those panthers, or put in that technology that protects the little old rich ladies and the Trumps and everybody else in Palm Beach from the soot. Okay, no reason that can't work across the board. Yeah. Who's going to pay for it? Who's paying for it now?
Yeah. I mean, and so the thing is, like, if they don't want to like address climate change and renewable energy at the state level, fine, you don't have to. But why would you prevent the local governments from trying to act on this? Like, it just that's what's really frustrating in so many of these things.
Now we've got
like one last with the preempting related to the environment. So down in Key West, a couple of years back, they passed a referendum limiting the size of cruise ships that could dock at their port, because they didn't want those super massive cruise ships coming in. Like, the amount of like turbidity they cause, the waste from those ships, and just all of the, for many reasons. And as a local community, they decided we don't want these supermassive cruise ships coming in. Well, some industry lobbyists gave $1 million to DeSantis's political action committees, and now all of a sudden the state legislature is preempting the ability of local governments to control what happens at their ports. So
Any port
yeah,
in the state.
absolutely. Yeah, so I mean, it doesn't just affect this Key West cruise ship. Like they tried to narrowly tailor it to so it would only actually affect Key West, but that died. And so then they grafted this onto a separate bill on the last days of session and just rammed it through. And so that's awaiting DeSantis's signature as well.
That is very bizarre, because it seems to me that Key West, of all that I can imagine in Florida, is a special case. It's a little island stuck out there in the Caribbean, and it's
surrounded by
the minute a big ship comes, all of a sudden the population goes up by 200%. These people are walking around town, and then they get back on and they leave their trash and the turbidity and the docks, and the stuff that they have to deal with all the time with the channel and everything else. But you go to the port of Tampa, it's not some place that you're going to hang out. The port of Manatee, this sort of thing. It's a business. It's a business port. And you go to the port of Canaveral, the Cape Canaveral out there, where they do have cruise ships. It's set up for cruise ships. There's an area bigger than Key West that just cruise ships can dock at down there off the Cocoa Beach and Cape Canaveral. So ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's not like they're saying no cruise ships. Like, obviously, Key West is more than aware of how dependent they are upon tourists. But I think the reasoning behind their referendum was the only way we keep these tourists coming is if we protect this pristine environment that brings them down here to begin with. And so we're not saying don't come down here, don't have cruise ships. We just don't want the biggest of the big down here causing excess damage to our environment, which is the only reason people are coming down there to begin with.
You mean they don't come to Lake Okeechobee to go fishing when there's a gigantic algae thing?
300
so bad
square miles.
My friend Brian Smalley went down there to sit on the edge of the lake there to write a song, and the smell was so bad.
Yeah.
And there's an algae bloom out there right now, the size of New York City.
Yeah, 300 square miles, and it's at some parts. So 8 parts per billion is considered hazardous to human health. At some parts, it's testing at 800 parts per billion. This is right there, like, next to, like, populated communities. They're having to breathe this air, like...
Every town on that lake makes its living off that lake, and the tourism and the fishing and the
I'll throw up some pictures
else.
of it, but, like, just to see the just miles and miles of just thick green algae just coating the lake, like, it's terrible. And I mean, we're still paying the consequences, paying the price for all the messing with Florida's waterways that were done, like, all throughout the 20th century, trying to straighten rivers and throw up dams and ditches, and just completely devastated the Lake Okeechobee ecosystem. And we're still dealing with the turnout.
It is huge, but at the same time, we've got so many little projects that added up that mean something. You wonder, like, what's the next generation going to do? Well, you've got the Pinellas Schools that own 14 acres off of West Klosterman Road up in the North County.
Hillsborough. Tampa, it's Hillsborough County Schools.
Oh, Hillsborough, yeah. Okay. And you wonder, okay, what is the school doing? It's holding out for development. It's
I know that is Pinellas. I'm thinking of a different one. You're right.
Yeah, Klosterman is Tarpon area.
Yeah, you're right.
And, it's like the Douglas property. You had a situation that the people, honest to God, the people rose up and saved that property.
Absolutely, yeah. I think
those county commissioners and city commissioners would not have acted in the way that they did. They were forced to.
They had years of opportunities. Like, hell, she tried to give it to them, and
they turned it down. Yes,
But
So there's a
next
a
Thursday.
celebration next Thursday, which would be May 6th.
May 13th.
Okay, next Thursday.
No, May 14th. I don't know.
We have to look up. I think it's May 12th, and it's the 13th because the 11th is a Tuesday, and they're going to get together. I think in the late afternoon, and the city of Dunedin is going to take over the ownership of the property with the help of the Pinellas County, and there's money there for fixing that property up. And I want our friends over in Hillsborough County with USF, 300-acre forest over there that is also threatened by development. USF, what is in your mind?
No, for real. Like, they have, like, they're an environmental, like, research institution. Like, they know better, or they should know better than most anyone. All right, yeah, so the Gladys Douglas event is May 13th at 5:30 p.m. on, this is saying Keenan Beltrees, but I don't think that's right. I would imagine it would be Keenan, Virginia.
Virginia and Keene, probably at the edge of the property.
But let me verify. Yeah, on the corner of Keene and Virginia at 5:30 next Thursday, the 13th.
And congratulations to the legislature for protecting the wildlife corridor, the Florida Wildlife Corridor, even giving it a little bit of a infrastructure design and everything else. And I really, Carlton Ward has done a great job, although I'm sad that he is moving away from the Tampa Bay area because he's just like throwing his hands up about all the things that are wrong that are going on over here, and he's moving back to the Orlando area. But the corridor will go on. I was there when the corridor began with Larry Harris, Dr. Larry Harris with the University of Florida, and we'll have a special podcast about Larry Harris, the man that created the term wildlife corridor, the first scientist to come up and do scholarly papers about the fact that animals need to move.
Yeah, they need that interconnectivity.
Right. And so, but thank God they dedicated $300 million to that project.
Yeah, that's some of the good news. It's not all doom and gloom out of the legislature this year. There's $100 million going towards cleaning up Piney Point, which
that just came out. Right?
Yeah, that just passed in the budget. I don't think DeSantis hasn't signed the budget yet. He's probably going to go through and like line item veto some stuff out of it, but I don't foresee him vetoing that at all. Yeah, it's a shame that it had to come to this like $100 million emergency fix. Like when this has been a known problem since there's been a phosphate like factory there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But it's good to see that they're finally like the local government, the state government, DEP, everyone's finally taking this seriously. But I'm a little like reticent about this deep injection well, deep well injection, because it's never been done like before with phosphate wastewater. So there's a couple of companies right now out on the site. I know one of them is called N-Clear. They've got, allegedly, they claim they have this innovative technology that completely remove the phosphorus and nitrogen from the water, thus making it safe to be injected in that deep well. But even if they can, that still doesn't address the issue of. All right, so yeah, in the pond that was leaking, the south pond that caused all of this issue that they pumped all of that water out of, much of that was from the latest dredging project at Port Manatee that caused the spill in 2011 or 12, whenever that was. But the other two ponds are the ones that do have that radioactive waste from the gypsum, and I'm just not sure how you treat.
There's no best case scenario there.
Yeah, and then if that does happen to leak, I mean, I guess leaks from deep well injection sites are very rare. I think we have something like 1,000 across the state of Florida, and there have only been like 6 or 7 documented leaks. But if this were to leak into the Floridan aquifer, it would be like devastating. The consequences, like, and it's, yeah, there's only a few known, but it's so hard to monitor and even know where the water is going through our porous like rocks, like our porous limestone, and I don't know. But so hopefully, like, they're able to work this out, and we never have to hear about Piney Point ever again. But I'm just a little worried.
Yeah. Let's wind this up with a discussion about this Orange County.
Yeah.
Rights. Right. They're assigning a right to nature.
Yeah. So they passed a county ordinance or referendum, whatever it was. I think it was voted on by the people, right? It wasn't like the county government. It was passed in November. Yeah, it was on the ballot for November of last year. And in July of last year, DeSantis shoved into, the legislature and DeSantis signed it into law, shoved into this Clean Water Act. It was a bill all about like protecting our waters and all of that, like improving our septic systems, switching from septic to sewer, which also there's a bunch more funding for that in this year's bill, which is good. Like that's, I mean, other than industry, these septic systems are like one of the biggest causes of these algae blooms and all of these problems we're having. But yeah, so the concept of rights of nature is this really interesting idea that like lakes and streams and forests have a right, like a legal right to survive, to be able to flow and to not be harmed. And it's a growing global trend. But yeah, so they ended up passing it last November. So now they are
passing what?
The rights of nature in Orange County. The citizens did end up passing that.
And this was Orange County citizens.
Yes, yeah. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. They recently filed a lawsuit against a development company on behalf of the lakes and creeks that would be harmed by this development. So this is like the first real test case of this. It'll be interesting to see. Just it's an untested legal concept,
but it's been around for a while.
Yeah, it has. It was first at least in
2010.
the US.
2010, the Universal Declaration of the Rights of Mother Earth was passed on April 22nd, 2010, at the World People's Conference on Climate Change and the Rights of Mother Earth.
Yeah, and since then, all over the world, especially down in South America and other parts of the developing world, they have been not just talking about it, but actually granting these rights and having effectively shutting down mining operations and timber operations and protecting indigenous people and their lands and the waters and everything that they depend on. But yeah, so this case could be interesting where it doesn't end up actually settling whether this rights of nature concept can hold up because of that preemption. They might just rule that they have that this ordinance is null and void because of that preemption, in which case Florida would have to get rid of that state level preemption, or we just won't be able to test out this legal theory. But yeah, I think it's a glorious idea because it's so hard to show standing when you want to prevent development from happening. Because you as an individual,
unless you're a big time endangered species, that has a lot of clout. Yeah. Well, maybe we can put up on the screen a link to the Universal Declaration of the Rights of
Mother Earth. Absolutely.
It's really too long to read, but
and they've been updating it. They do annual reports on it. They released one last summer, really laying out in detail all over the world, including some places here in the U.S. There was a push to get Lake Erie recognized as a legal entity. But yeah, so I think that this is the kind of forward thinking, this is how we're going to solve these problems.
Smart thinking, yes.
It can't just be. I mean, for things like the Gladys Douglas property, like it can be just a small group of like committed citizens going out there and saying, "Hey, this ain't cool." But for so much of it, like we need these new like legal thoughts.
Well, can you imagine bringing suit against on the behalf of the gopher tortoises that lived out there?
Absolutely. Or the
Rosemary
their
right
ball.
to live.
Yeah,
or the rosemary ball.
Yeah.
It has a right
to exist
in nature.
Yeah.
Well.
So I think
good job.
Yeah, I think we're gonna try to do these little weekly Florida environmental roundups, kind of keep everyone up to date on what's going on, good and
send us what you comment on what you think, and if you have any subjects or questions, subjects for us to cover or questions, we'll be glad to do it. How can they reach us?
You can comment on the videos. You can go to our website, floridafolkshow.com, and leave us comments there. You can email us at pete@floridafolkshow.com. We're also on Facebook and Twitter. You can reach out to us on any of those platforms, and we'd love to hear from you. Any ideas,
we can see you
suggestions?
See you on WMNF between 9 and 10 every Saturday morning with the Florida Folk Show, which is both streamed live, audio and video.
Yeah. And it's archived in case you're not an early bird on Saturdays. You can still watch it on the Florida Folk Show Facebook group, and for up to a week you can listen to it on the WMNF archives.
And as Bobby Hicks used to say, have a great Florida day.